Ben Carson's schedule shows trips to Florida Mansion, one senior team meeting per week. Washington U. Ben Carson's daily schedule from 2017 shows a HUD secretary who held senior staff meetings once a week, lunched with the author of Chicken. A list of appointments for a 31-week period shows that for about half of the Fridays worked a traditional 8 or 9-hour day. For 5 of the calendar also indicates that in 2017, HUD's senior staff huddled just once a week. Calendar's previous 3 different 2017 calendars from Carson's office were obtained by the government watchdog group American Oversight through a federal lawsuit and provided to NBC News. NBC News, American Oversight filed its first Freedom of Information Act request for Carson's calendar in November 2017. When the group's while according to his calendar, on Friday, July 7, had a 2:20 p.m. flight to West Palm Beach. On Friday, May 26, his schedule reads leave. The calendars show frequently flew commercially at his own expense to South Florida. His schedule shows the secretary's work schedule. Almost. The calendars provided to American Oversight do not give insight into when Carson arrives, but the first appointments listed are generally at 9 or 10 a.m. NBC News has previously that a dozen current and former HUD officials, both political appointees and career staff, describe a lack of urgency at the agency under Ben Carson. NBC News has also previously reported that Carson's signature initiative Envision. Last week, President Trump's budget request for fiscal year 2020 showed Carson has proposed 18% cuts for his agency and again calls for tripling rents on those who live in a request that failed last year. Carson is also, the calendars obtained by American Oversight also highlight the rapid turnover in Carson's top team. Carson's numbered Trump cabinet secretaries vary widely when it comes to sharing their calendars. Former EPA Administrator Scott Pruitt's team fought fiercely to keep his calendar under wraps. Once obtained by the Interior Department began posting a regular calendar for former Secretary Ryan Zinke, but watchdogs have noted large gaps where meetings were labeled external with no attendees listed. The calendar for one of the most transparent offices has been Labor Secretary Alex Acosta, whose office posts his calendar on the agency's website. Treasury Secretary Steve Nookins is posted online, but it's almost a year behind schedule, with the last public calendar from April 2018.
Raindrop, truck,